welcome back to a new video. My name is Jade Shinu and I help people reclaim back their power physically, mentally and spiritually. Now today I'm going to be talking to you about shamanic witchcraft, signs of you being a shamanic witch. Now there are many different types of witchcraft and shamanism and all this sort of thing, and it can get slightly complex and confusing as there are so many labels and people love to label things, but in general, this is the sort of signs of what shamanism is and what basically how it connects to witchcraft. And if you are actually someone who should be dwelling in actual shamanic witchcraft yourself. So the important thing to understand about shamanism is it relates to everyone. Like, unfortunately, most people have a very certain idea of what a shaman looks like, and they only link it to people who are like very tribal looking, you know, of color, you know, people of color, etc. People, you know, in Peru and, you know, them sort of very typical shamans, you know, Native Americans and that sort of thing. But in reality, shamanism has been found in literally every race and civilization, because it's basically, it was always like the witch doctor, the healer, the oracle person within communities throughout generations. However, with shamans, there is one thing that they do and what they are, and it is really something that you can't necessarily force, because it's only certain people who hear the calling. And shamanism is not something you can just like learn or buy a certificate and now you're a shaman. It's something in your soul. It is something that you have to do from a soul calling, a soul purpose. Your soul is what will tell you if you are genuinely a shaman. So this is the point of this video today, to let you know the 8 signs of a true shaman, and if you should be on the path, and if you have the gift, if you literally have the calling, and what the traits of it actually are. Now, the first thing to note is obviously, what is a shaman? So shamanic witchcraft is basically someone who is a bridge. They are a bridge between 2 realms, well, many realms really, but to make it more simple to understand, it's someone who is a bridge between this realm, so the physical realm, and the spiritual realms. So they are like in between. So basically they have 1 foot in this realm and then 1 foot in the spiritual realms. And this is why it can be very problematic if you're someone who is born as a natural shaman but you have 0 guidance, which I'll get into later in the video. Because shamanism isn't something that's glamorous. Shamanism is a very serious and can be quite dangerous thing to do. It's extremely difficult, and it takes a hell of a lot of willpower, determination, wisdom, fearlessness, and skill really to do it effectively whilst keeping your own physical body healthy. So the sort of thing that a shaman will do is, of course, healing. Healing is the #1 thing that they will do for people, but healing can be done in many different ways, because people get sick and have problems because of many different catalysts. So the #1 thing that they'll do, or a lot of the time, is their natural entity removers. So they'll remove things from people's souls, from their bodies, you know, negative energy, entities, you know, they're basically like esoteric exorcists. They can remove things from you and then put it back where they need to be. This is why it's important that you are a genuine shaman, because you need to be familiar with the astral realms and the spiritual realms. They will have a very strong connection with their guides, their ancestors, you know, spirits, because they can't do it all on their own. You need help and guidance and aid from spirit beings when you're dealing and doing this sort of work. Another thing they'll do is soul retrieval, which can help people with trauma, you know, who have fractured souls. You know, there's so many different things that they can do. They'll help cleanse you, you know, they do a lot of purging. You know, there's so many different things that it can lead into, but the #1 thing is, of course, always healing, guidance. But it's quite an intense type of healing, and in my opinion, probably one of the most powerful types as well. So the #1 sign that you are a shaman in your soul, in your blood, is you'll have a really, really deep, and I mean deep, love and connection to nature. even if you haven't like fully got there yet, but in your soul, you'll always be like a huge animal lover. You'll get very sad when you see like a tree getting cut down, for example. It'll like really affect your soul when you see animals getting abused, when you see even people getting abused, but especially nature and animals, because you know that these things are extremely vulnerable, extremely innocent, and nature is like very fragile. Although it's very strong and powerful, it can get out of balance very quickly. And unfortunately, this is the time that we're living in right now, and this is why so many shamans are hearing the call, which I'll get into later, to really start to take action, because you are natural protectors and guardians of the earth. You need to be here to basically protect nature, to help it thrive, to help it, you know, be nurtured. Because this is what, you know, the earth spirits want you to do. Because with shamans, you'll be connected to many different types of spirits. Sometimes you'll just be connected to a certain group, or, you know, most of the time you'll have connections to many spirits. So you will have guidance and connection to earth spirits, you know, the fae, them sort of types. You'll be connected to elemental spirits, you know, very earthy, grounded spirits. But then, of course, you'll be connected to higher realm spirits, you know, spirits who aren't of earth, you know, alien type spirits. So many, you know, interdimensional beings of all different realms, you know, high and low. You'll be aware and have some sort of connection to all of them. But this is what pushes you to like protect the earth, and you feel very rejuvenated and you crave to be in nature. You're someone that really, really wants to like live in the countryside. You know, even though you can like the city, it doesn't mean that you hate cities, but you really do enjoy being in nature. You want to go to tropical places, be surrounded by animals. You may have loads of pets, you know, that sort of thing. You may be surrounded by plants, you know, you love plants in your home. So whatever it is, but you'll have that real deep connection, and you'll probably be someone who's vegan or vegetarian because you feel the pain of animals and you don't want to be in causing that pain. You don't want to be causing that pain and suffering and torture on other beings, because you feel how awful and negative that is. And you'll have a very deep sort of sadness in your soul because of what is obviously going on planet Earth right now. So this is something that will, you know, you'll always have to kind of deal with. But this is ironically what pushes you, what motivates you to do the work and to help people as well. And this is what leads me on to number 2, is you'll be a highly sensitive person. So basically it's called a HSP. It's a highly sensitive person. You know, basically an empath, but not the typical empath. You'll be someone who's like more potent. You'll be like next level empath. And this is what I mean when you feel everything. And this can cause a lot of like mood swings and problems and imbalances within you, because it's very difficult to control this powerful passion and energy or grief or rage when you see, you know, animals getting hurt, or you see the planet getting burnt and destroyed and the seas getting like ripped apart. Like, it causes a real deep anger in you. And this is because you're connected to the other earthly elemental spirits, and you're even connected to the higher spirits who live within higher realms, higher dimensional realms, you know, 5D and up. So because they feel it too, but it's mainly the earthly spirits. They're the ones who are getting affected by it the most, because Earth is also their home, this dimension basically. You're not just an empath of human emotion, you are an empath of spiritual emotion as well. So you will feel the tree spirits, the elemental spirits, you'll feel even the earth, Gaia itself, because Gaia, our earth, is conscious. So you'll pick up on that energy all the time. And this is what can cause empath rage, outbursts, you know, but also on the positive side, such passion. But it can also cause severe depression. So you're kind of like someone who bounces between the two, of like fierce passion, but then and motivation, but then also anger and depression. So you kind of really have to find that balance. And this is something that I myself had to deal with for many, many years. And it drove me mad. Now I've come to a place of more acceptance and understanding what I can change and what I can't change. and really just letting things play out. So because there's so much going on in the spiritual realms and the earthly realms, there's a lot of karma that needs to be dealt with. There's a lot of destruction that needs to be done in order to cleanse for things to regrow. But basically with you, you'll be affected so much by things, and of course you'll have the other typical traits that I've spoken about before. You'll be quite introverted, you won't like crowds, you'll feel very different, very alien. You've always kind of been like, you know, the black sheep of the family, you know, that sort of thing, a very old soul. So you'll have all those like typical traits as well. But all wrapped into like being a very sensitive person, which can also look like even mental illness at times. People who aren't spiritual and who don't understand these sort of things, you know, unfortunately a lot of natural shamans actually end up being put on meds. They actually end up being put in mental homes. They end up being, you know, labeled as bipolar or having some sort of severe mental illness and that sort of thing. And it's really quite sad because they're so gifted, and this is what, you know, a natural normal person obviously doesn't understand, because they don't feel those emotions, they don't feel that energy, which will drive someone with no guidance or help to madness. So it's very difficult to achieve, and this is why, you know, tribal communities are, you know, much more healthier than typical Western communities in regards to spirituality in general, because they have that understanding. It's not taboo to them, it's not weird or woo-woo, like it's just part of their life. So someone who's recognized as a natural shaman within their communities will be taken under the wing of the shaman of the tribe, of the oracle, the healer. So they'll have guidance since birth, since day one, pretty much from a young age. And unfortunately, this is a luxury that Western people never get, we don't get, because our spirituality has been suppressed, it's been killed by obviously other things, other people way back. I'll do a video on that in the future, but it's been massively demonized. So number 3 is basically you'll go through a lot of challenges. So this is basically the shamanic initiation. You will have to go through at some point in your life, or many points in your life, you'll have to go through something that is called the shaman initiation. And this is basically a test. It's kind of like tough love in a way, to prepare you and to make you strong and to make you wise. It's all about growth. It's all about lessons, no matter how brutal it may seem, because trust me, I've been there, done that, like I always say. But basically you'll probably be someone who has had a really tough childhood. You'll have someone who, you know, you'll be someone who's gone through many like tragedies. You'll be someone who's gone through many like hardships, challenges, grief, sadness, you know, bad luck. You'll be someone who has endured some sort of like extreme trauma, or several traumas. Like something challenging will be a part of your story. Basically you'll have some sort of like darkness that's like part of your story, and like I said earlier, this is all part of the shaman initiation. And this can even be in the form of physical things as well, not just like physical, not just mental abuse or emotional abuse. It can be someone who's born even with a disability or an illness, or, you know, something along them lines. Anything that makes your life, you know, put you through basically a bit of suffering. Because sometimes you have to suffer to wake up. Sometimes you have to suffer to grow. Sometimes your heart has to break for it to open. And this is really like the truth of it all. And it can seem, because if your life was just fun and dandy and nothing bad happened, it was all great, it was all sunshine and rainbows, you wouldn't hear the calling, you wouldn't be able to heal people, your soul wouldn't have any depth, it'd be very shallow, it'd be yeah, all too easy basically. Because Earth is a school, it's like a school for souls, for spirits to evolve and to grow, amongst other things. But basically you need to go through these challenges to conquer them, to master yourself, because you cannot grow unless you get challenged. You cannot grow unless you go through real sadness, unless you see hell, unless you see true darkness, because you can only understand true light, true love, if you know true darkness. And this is what the shaman journey is all about. Because when you heal people, you'll meet so many people who have immense darkness, immense pain in their souls, and it will overwhelm you. Like, if you are not prepared for that sort of thing, there's no way in a million years you'll be able to handle that type of energy. There's no way in a million years you'll be able to even handle the sort of entities that are attached to them. Because this is what I mean about real darkness, is these entities are pure evil. Like, even though it's all part of the matrix and the game, these entities, their natural blueprint of energy is extremely dark, it's extremely heavy, sinister. So if you come face to face with that, and you haven't come face to face with it already in your own life, you'll run from the hills in terror or you'll be destroyed yourself, because sometimes it can cause a backlash. And if you try to help someone who is under, you know, severe attack, psychic attack, or they just have their own severe trauma, severe energy, it can be contagious. And then this can go onto you, and then you won't know how to deal with it. You won't know how to cleanse it. You won't know how to purge it. So this is why the shaman at quite a young age, and normally through their childhood and teenage years and their early 20s or whole of their 20s, you know, their young life, you'll go through so much, because you'll have to learn quick, you'll have to wise up, you'll have to have an ego death. So it's kind of like you're in fast forward mode in order for you to quickly grow. So the only way to make people quickly grow is for them to go through a hell of a lot of shit. It's really that simple. But then once you come out on the other side, you'll be so powerful. You'll have such a thick skin. You'll be amazing to like help other people deal with their darkness. You'll be such a bright light, and this is what will protect you. This is what will keep you from getting ill, because you can get physically ill as well if you take on too much negative energy from other people. And number 4 kind of links to number 3, but basically if you feel the call, if you've heard the call and you ignore it, then you'll get something called shaman sickness. So shaman sickness is basically something that manifests within you, within your body, within your mind, if you ignore your calling. And this is why the shaman path is something that can't be bought. It's something that can't be taught. It's something that can't be, you know, forced onto someone. It's basically like you either are a shaman or you're not. Because only people who hear the calling, who have to basically be a shaman, will endure these challenges, will endure something that's called, shaman sickness. And this is basically a sickness that will come into you if you don't do your job, if you don't follow your life purpose, if you don't follow your destiny. And this can be very frustrating and annoying and very depressing at times for people, for shamans. Because if you're someone who just wants to live a normal life, if you're someone who just wants to kind of be, basically normal or do other things or other passions or more fun, light stuff, you won't be able to really do that. It's like you have to commit to it or you're going to suffer. So it's very like brutal in a way. It's again another form of tough love. But this is because your soul signed up for this. So another sign is you might be in numerology a master number 11 or a master number 1 or a master number 9. But especially the master numbers, so 11, even 22 and 33. But especially 11 and 33 are possibly the most spiritual numbers, which are most typically associated with shamanism. Because your soul is very old, it's very ancient, and you basically volunteered to help people, to liberate the consciousness level, to liberate people's souls, to liberate and raise the level of frequency on earth. So this is why you're here. You're not here to just have fun. You're not here to just, get rich and get a mansion and buy a Lamborghini and, do all these silly things. Like, it's so much, that's just the ego that gets brainwashed into these things. And this doesn't mean that you can't have money. It doesn't mean that you can't, have nice things. Of course you can, because you need to be financially supported. Like, really, the more financially supported you are as a shaman, in a Western shaman anyway, the better, because it's like now you have more freedom, you have more energy to actually go out into the world and help people. So, and even donate money to charities, to animal charities, to help, you know, clean up the ocean and, you know, nature, etc. Like, there's so much good you can do with money. So as a little side note, please don't demonize money. If you're someone who is on the spiritual path or as a shaman, don't demonize money, because money is just energy. It's a tool, like the internet. Like right now, the internet can be used for such good, such healing, but then it can be used for the complete opposite, you know, the dark web, you know, dark evil shit. You know, it can be very bad as well. Money is the same. But this is something that I myself also endured, shaman sickness, because I was someone who didn't want to listen to my spiritual calling, even though I kept getting told by multiple people that I was a shaman, I have healing hands, I need to go out and be helping people, I need to heal, My ego and my trauma and also my fear is what was blocking it. Like, I didn't want to get into it because I had seen and endured so much pain and fear and terror because obviously of my paranormal experiences, which I'll get into later. It scares me. And I didn't want to endure that. And my ego wanted to be, you know, someone else. So I had to go through an extreme ego death to really accept this truth, to really accept my gifts. And I had to do a lot of inner healing and basically become fearless, to face my fears, so I could go out and put myself out into the world to do what I meant to do, to go and help people, which I already have been doing. But before then, you know, I was a tattooist because I'd always been very artistic my whole life. I had the gift of, you know, arts from a young age, and that led me to be a tattooist for about 8 years. But basically, it got to the point where I was forced to stop tattooing because of the severe pain it was causing me. So basically, every time I started to tattoo people, I would be in immense pain. And I mean immense pain with my back, with my neck. Literally, as soon as I get into position, it was like be so bad, like this electric stabbing, literally as if someone was stabbing me to stop. And this is because my guides and the universe were pushing me out of that career path. They were pushing me away. And this happens to so many people, and even my clients, because I do a lot of client readings, and I've come across natural shamans who have endured this as well. They'll be very good at a particular craft, or have a very good career that pays them well or whatever. But then they'll suddenly, out of nowhere, they'll get something that makes them stop. And it'll always be like a physical illness or ailment or something along them lines. And this is because they have to, because it's not part of their path. And although this can be very depressing, it can be very sad, it's just the ego that doesn't understand. Because in reality, you know, once I really made a connection to my guides, my personal guide who came into my life, once I finally let go of my ego and that path, they were like, oh, finally, well done. Like, listen to the signs, pay attention to the signs. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone through that sickness if you got on this path earlier. So this is what I mean by tough love, but they're always trying to push you to your full potential. They're always trying to guide you to who you are meant to be, but it is an extremely messy, tough road. So don't ignore the call because you may not have experienced it yet. So number 5 is obviously what I've just been talking about, is basically you will hear the call. And this is what I mean by, you know, you can't fake being a shaman. You can't force, you can't choose to be a shaman. You either are or you're not. Because it's your soul that will call you. It's your soul that will remind you. It will drive you to it. So you'll see it everywhere. Like on my early journey, I just had a very natural curiosity about shamanism. And I kind of remember why or where I first saw it. You know, I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, so there was no YouTube. There was no videos like this of people saying, you're a shaman. Like, it was nowhere really, but I just kept coming across it all the time. And then every time I'd see a healer, because I went through a lot of paranormal problems, you know, like I've said in my story times, paranormal story time videos, I had a lot of entity trouble, a lot of demonic possession, like so many dark things. So I got into contact with many healers, exorcists and this sort of thing, but esoteric exorcists, and they kept telling me the same thing again and again, that they see shamanism in my future, that I have their gift, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And although I might not want to do it, because trust me, there's still a part of me that's like, oh God, I don't want to do this, it's too hard, it's too draining. But it's like, you kind of have to like bite the bullet and get on with it. And this is what ego death is all about, because you have to listen to your heart. You have to have that compassion. So if your heart is calling you to be more compassionate, to show more empathy, to really genuinely want to help people, to really genuinely want to heal others and heal the planet and help animals, like if this is what you're hearing, this is the call of the shaman. Because it's not just you, it's not just your soul, it is the earth, it is the animals screaming for help, it is the trees screaming for help, it is everything calling you to do something. It is your past lives, because you probably would have had past lives doing this line of work, as I'll say in a minute. So basically you would have already cultivated these skills in previous lifetimes, and a lot of times unfortunately you might have been condemned for this. So this is something called the witch wounds, where you're probably killed, you're probably murdered, you basically got into trouble for being a witch or an oracle or a healer. And this prevents you. This fear is what blocks the call. So don't block it, listen to it. It can be very scary to follow your heart, but that's basically what it is. It's your soul and your heart calling you. It's pushing you to remember who you are, to remember your gifts, to develop them, because sometimes you suppress your gifts. So you may have had loads of gifts as a child, but then over your life, your third eye would have got calcified. Your trauma and just society in general will suppress it. Drinking too much coffee, that suppresses it. So there's so many things that like switch you off. And then the calling is like that little nudge in your soul to be like, wake back up, wake back up. And this is what a spiritual awakening is truly about as well. With shamans, it's like really powerful. It's something you can't ignore, otherwise it will lead into shaman sickness, like I said to you earlier. So you just got to listen to your heart, and you'll be guided to where you need to go, who you need to see, you know, go through all these lessons. So you just got to flow through the challenges, flow. And there'll be many times you'll lose faith, there'll be many challenges, you know, there'll be times that you just want to give up, but you just have to keep consistent, you have to keep moving forward. Don't ignore the call. Number 6 is music. So basically you'll have a very weird, strong connection to music. More music that's very like trance-like. So with music, you'll be able to get into a trance-like state very quick with certain music. And again, this is because shamans use a lot of sound therapy. Within ceremonies and rituals, they'll always use, you know, normally drumming. They'll always use very spiritual, high frequency music to move energy in the body, to move negative energy out, to help people purge, to help people heal, to basically get your brain and soul into that very high level mindset, frequency realm, and also to help them travel, to astral travel and that sort of thing. So music is very important to shamans. So you'll probably be someone who loves drums. You'll be someone who's very moved and very, like, you can feel music through you. You can feel the frequencies. You'll be someone who probably adores like Native American music, like me. I love it so much. And again, I always have since I was a child. I remember we got our first Native American album. I think I was like 7 or 6. I can't remember. And I adored it. And I still listen to that album today. I think it's called Sacred Spirits. It's very old, but it's a beautiful album. But basically, you'll be very drawn to like unusual music like that. So Native American music, Egyptian music, maybe even Indian flute music, like flute music as well. Like, oh, I adore it. Even just rain, listen to the rain, sounds of water. Like these sort of things, these sort of sounds will put you in a really like trance-like state. And you'll probably be someone who can dance as well, very like intuitively. kind of like, you know, ecstatic dancing in a way, where you'll just kind of instantly go into a very trance-like state with music, and it's like you almost can't control yourself anymore. And this is something that shamans do a lot. Even on my early journey, like I remember when I was first coming into my soul again, I would literally not be able to sleep at sometimes 3 a.m. in the morning, and I would just put on my headphones, you know, and listen to Native American music in the middle of the night, and I'll just start dancing around my room naked. And, you know, it was great. So if you're someone like that, I don't really do that anymore because I'm too tired. But, you know, you'll be that sort of person. You'll be someone who gets like really moved by music. You know, you'll cry, you'll feel these emotions, and you'll feel the frequencies. So music affects you deeply. And probably get yourself an instrument, you know, sound bowls, drums, flutes, you know, because this will be really, really healing for your body. This will be really healing for your soul, and it will connect you even deeper to that energy of who you are and who you're meant to be. And number 7 is you'll have healing hands. So something that's called healing hands naturally. And a lot of the times people don't actually know that they have healing hands. And it's not something as literal as like, oh, someone's got a broken leg and you can like magically put your hand on their leg and they'll magically heal. Yeah, it's not that, unless you're Jesus. But basically, it's not so literal as that. I mean, some people maybe who live in like, you know, the temples and hills of the Himalayas in Tibet. But you will have something that's called, basically you'll be an alchemist. You'll have alchemist hands. And this can be something as subtle as like, if you're around someone, a natural shaman is like a sponge. So kind of like what I was saying about the empath abilities. So if you touch someone who is in pain, it's like you kind of suck out their pain. And then later on, you might find that, oh, now you feel their pain. Now you've got a headache, now or migraine. Now you've got like a tummy ache. Now you feel sick, you feel nausea, or you just feel really drained, because you'll be giving like a bit of your energy and helping like alchemize that person without even knowing it. So you'll probably find that you have this within yourself, that every time you kind of even hug someone, or, you know, you have to be careful who you touch, basically. Spiritual hygiene. And this doesn't mean that you become very paranoid, because again, if you're someone who is very healthy, you know, shamans have to look after themselves way more than the normal person. So you need to be eating right, hydrated, you know, you need to be meditating, you need to be out in nature. You know, there's so many things that you've got to be aware of, because if you get over consumed by fear and negative energy and toxic energy, it just deteriorates you. And this is the challenge that true shamans find. So it's very difficult, especially for Western shamans, because unfortunately we don't have the luxury of living in Peru, in the jungle, you know, in the rainforests, where people like that, it'll be much easier for them because they're just, you know, surrounded by nature. They're grounded to the earth, they get loads of sun, you know, they've got more fresh foods and that sort of thing. So, you know, with Westerners, we're surrounded by so much Wi-Fi and pollution and toxic shit in our food and our water. So it's a lot more challenging to be a spiritual healer and do shamanic witchcraft when you are in Western worlds. So, in Western countries, sorry. So another thing you may find, like when I used to actually do healings on people physically, only on friends and family, or whenever I would have an entity come to me and they would want healing, they would need to be sent up, you will normally purge things physically. So negative energy always comes out the mouth. So whenever I would heal people, or draw out negative energy or be attacked physically by, or spiritually by an entity, I'll always throw up afterwards. So sometimes I'll get spirits come to me and they'll have a lot of anger, a lot of grief, you know, they'll be very twisted, you know, deformed, very confused, you know, they'll be just a mess basically. And I'll have to like feel their emotions, and then I'll have to alchemize it. And basically when that's done, which is very difficult, I'll throw up. And sometimes nothing like actually comes out. It will just sometimes just be saliva. Sometimes you'll actually throw up things, but it's the same with humans as well. So it will kind of be like you're getting rid of whatever was stuck in that human or within that spirit. So basically you're like a vessel. You're basically a filter. So shamans are basically like spiritual filters where shit things will go inside you, and then like you have to like clean it. So you're cleaning people, you're a little filter. But this is hard, you know, it's hard work. And this is why it frustrates me when I see people just basically faking it, because it's so damaging to real shamans. And, you know, it is a tough life, like it is hard work. And you'll know, you know, if you resonate with these signs, how difficult it can be. But basically, that's why you are a natural healer. You have natural healing hands. And I've met some people who don't even touch people because they're so scared and they're so sensitive that they literally refuse to touch people. You know, especially if they're highly psychic as well, it affects them too much. And I've gone through periods of this in my life as well, of extreme isolation, when I felt very vulnerable, very fearful. That's another sign, you know, when you are a natural healer, when you have natural healing abilities, healing hands, is you'll kind of isolate yourself because you'll feel like the energy is too much anxiety, you know, too much darkness, too much depression. Because it's just, you know, it's just gets stuck in you basically. And this is why you've got to learn practices to alchemize it, release it, transmute that negative energy into positive energy. That's possibly the #1 most important skill that a shaman needs to learn, is how to, one, banish things, put things where they belong, but also how to alchemize things. So you don't become the monster. So you don't become overburdened and sick from everyone and everything's negative energy. And number 8, the last one, is natural mediumship abilities. So of course with shamans, you will have a very like strong connection to the spirit world. And like I said earlier, this is very much needed because you need their assistance. You need them to help you cleanse people basically, to guide and to channel. Like a lot of the times when I am quite tired and I have like a client or whatever, like someone I need to help, I'll just get this burst of energy, and it's not even me, it's basically my guide or their guides or ancestors, you know, whoever it is, it doesn't really matter. They'll start channeling through you. So channeling is like not what people think. It's not always as literal as like, oh, you go into a blackout trance, so then you have some weird voice talking out of you. Sometimes it can be that, of course it can, but that's more possession than channeling, because that's when you are like in the driver's seat. Because that's when you are kind of like in the back seat of the car, and an entity, you know, whether positive or negative, is taking the driving seat. You know, they're now controlling you. They're like at the front of your vessel. So channeling, again, can be dangerous, but it can be very healing and powerful as well. So it's very much like versatile. So there's some people who, with shamans, you'll just get so much wisdom, so much guidance. It'll be very intuitive. And this can be literally just a guide, putting those thought forms in your mind, and you're just flowing through it. So it can literally just be you talking. You know, even when I do these videos, sometimes I just channel things and I don't even realize where it came from. I don't even think of it. I never script my videos, and it's just literally just comes out. I just let it come out. So even making videos and talking to people is like a form of channeling at times. But you'll know when you're doing it, because it's literally like you're just giving someone so much advice, so much guidance, and it's kind of like you don't even know where it comes from. You don't even know like, oh, I don't like, where did that come from? It's like you just go into this trance-like state, and it's like you can't even keep your mouth from moving. You can't even stop yourself from talking. That's channeling. But this is why it's imperative, like I always say in my other videos, to be of a very high pure vibration. So you only channel positive beings, because you do not want to channel dark entities. You do not want to channel negative things. And sometimes they can, of course, attack people who are on a high vibration, but you'll have the discernment, you'll have the awareness of it, so you won't let it in. And this is what's important. You'll probably be someone as well who has had like paranormal experiences, especially since childhood. You probably were really scared as a child, like I was, because you saw shadow people and demons and had all these awful, crazy experiences. You know, you've probably seen like all types of entities, or you've maybe heard them, you felt them touch you, that sort of thing, or astral projected, or you have a lot of lucid dreams. You know, you're very like that way inclined. You've just always been very spiritual since birth, pretty much. Because shamans are meant to be, and this is again a challenge that comes with being a shaman, is you can't switch that off. So with me, I've literally been connected to the spirit world since I was a baby. Like my first word was literally the name of an entity. So it's literally always been with me since I was born. And it terrified me for most of my life. For like half of my life, I was terrified of it. So it's something you can't switch off. It's something you can't run away from. It will follow you no matter where you go. If every house you live in, it will always feel like it's haunted, because it's not the house that's haunted, it's you. Because you will be a beacon to them. You'll be a beacon to spirits. You'll be a beacon to guides. You'll be a beacon to so many things, you know, light and even dark things. Because again, you'll be a threat to the dark things. They won't want you to like become powerful, because you are a threat to them, because they know your potential, because you can have the ability to help people and transmute them into lights, because they want people to be stuck in the dark so they can feed off their pain and their misery and their fear. So that's a whole other topic, you know, to do with spiritual warfare. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video on that, as I feel like it's probably needed. So again, a thing to notice is you're not going to be perfect from day one. Like the shaman journey is very messy, and you'll spend years developing your skills. You'll spend a long time learning how to protect yourself, how to communicate to guides, how to keep your frequency high, how to, you know, clean people, how to purge negative energy from them. You know, even I'm still learning. I'm not perfect by any means. So don't expect yourself to be perfect. You know, there's many things that need to be learnt. Just use this as a general guidance, and basically try to just go with the flow. Just keep consistent, keep moving forward, and have that intent to know the truth. Have that intent to be your most powerful, authentic self, and you will get there if you keep faith that you will. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more guidance, I do have a free ebook called The Third Eye Detox. So of course it'll sort of help you decalcify your third eye and heighten your intuition, which is very important for shamans and witches alike. And if you want one-to-one personal guidance, I do oracle card readings and intuitive guidance along with that. It's a very deep, long call that I do with clients. So if you want that as well, I will link that in the description box below. And this is where I do a very in-depth 50 card spread or even more to see many things going on in your life. So if you want more help and you need that sort of guidance, then please contact me and I'll be very happy to do that. Or if you want to do a cleanse, a physical body cleanse, I do have this chakra cleanse, which is a 7-day smoothie cleanse with all the recipes and shopping lists that you need. So if you want that, I'll link everything in the description box down below in my Linktree link, or visit thegoddesscoven.net. Follow me on Instagram for little updates and more content on there. And until next time, guys, lots of love, lots of light. Ahimsa.